Well, let's go over to Cameroon now, where things have been tense today in the English-speaking regions. And this comes after a weekend of protests as some demonstrators continue to call for secession. Clashes with security forces left at least 7 people dead on Sunday, and opposition groups say that at least 30 died. The authorities have urged calm. Here's Leila Ajovi reporting.
They chose October the 1st as the first day of their new nation. The anniversary of the joining together of English and French Cameroon saw English-speaking activists marching for the imagined state of Ambazonia. The symbolic country would be made up of the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon. There was a heavy police and military presence, and tear gas and live bullets were fired. And residents found themselves caught up in the tension.
The town was really very tense. This is something I've never seen before. So turning left and right and seeing only police and military people gives me a lot of tension and it gives me fright.
These were young men and women, young boys and girls, armless with leaves in their hands. You bring live bullets, the live bullets to shoot and kill, and you did. Who gave them the live bullets? Who gave the order that they should shoot and kill?
The security forces came out in force. Reports on numbers of fatalities vary, but dozens have been injured and about 200 arrested. This is the culmination of months of protest against perceived discrimination suffered by English-speaking Cameroonians at the hands of the Francophone majority. But some are worried that the radical rhetoric of secessionists could backfire.
The population is trapped between the secessionists and the president, who is the only one who can unlock the situation. But sadly, the president has once again fallen into silence and a condescension that cannot be justified today.
The Cameroonian president finally expressed his view on Sunday. In a message in English and in French posted on social media, Paul Biya condemned the violence and called for dialogue. Leila Ajovi, BBC News, Dakar.
Well, off the back of that, let's speak to Debussy Tande. He's a Cameroonian blogger and analyst joining us from Chicago. Thanks for talking to us. Give us a bit of context here. Just how widespread is this secessionist movement? Are we talking about a small group of people, or is Anglophone Cameroon speaking with one voice on this issue?
We're not talking about a small group of people. If we go by anecdotal evidence, we'll discover that at this point in time, the secessionist movement has widespread appeal, and it has a base within the hinterlands of Cameroon. Now, whether they are the majority, whether they are the minority is really irrelevant at this point, because they have the voice, they have the ability to mobilize, the ability to galvanize, and they have a very fantastic communications network. They are the most active force on the ground at this point in time. So I think the more important point to take note is that without their participation, there will be no peace, no solution to this problem. So they are so popular that they cannot be ignored.
Well, the president does seem to acknowledge that to some extent. He's calling for dialogue, but some of their grievances have been long-standing. These are not issues that are just coming up. What kind of hope is there that there can be an amicable solution to this?
Well, there have been talks of dialogue for the past 1 year or more, but each time the government ends up being either intransigent, slow in responding to the problem, or responding in a half-hearted manner. So by the time it does by the time the government does anything in terms of improving the situation has already worsened. So I don't know if the talks or dialogue are real or if they're just face-saving measures.
And when it comes to action, has the government taken any action to address some of the grievances that are being brought up by the secessionists?
The government has done some piecemeal measures, for example, creating an Anglo-Saxon or common law section in the Supreme Court or in the School of Administration, where most of Cameroonian administrators are trained. But in terms of the fundamental problems, they still stay in place. And Anglophones complain, among other things, about their marginalization within the broader Cameroonian polity, the eradication or slow dismantling of their educational system, their justice system, and the lack of autonomy in managing their own affairs. which existed during the federal era. So that is where we are at this point. We need broad-based solutions to these problems if we want to avoid more chaos down the road.